He looked at it yesterday. I came and fixed everything. He says it's good. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 20th, 2023 Grants Pass City Council meeting. We start our meetings with a moment of silence, so please join me for that. And please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have Councilor DeLaGrange online tonight, and Councilor Councilor King is absent, and we are starting off with a public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public hearing to consider an application that would amend the zoning map for a property located at the corner of Hamilton Lane and Southeast Jerrine Street, Assessor's Map 360528BB, Tax Lot 1200. We will begin the hearing with a staff report, followed by a presentation by the applicant, statements by persons in favor of the application, statements by persons in opposition to the application, and an opportunity for additional comments by the applicant and staff. After that has occurred, the public comment portion will be closed and the matter will be discussed and acted upon by the council. Is there anyone present who wishes to challenge the authority of the council to hear this matter? Do any councilors wish to abstain from participating in this hearing or declare a potential conflict of interest? Are there any councilors who wish to disclose discussions, contacts, or other ex parte information they have received prior to this meeting regarding this application? In this hearing, the decision of the council will be based upon specific criteria which are set forth in the Development Code. All testimony which apply in this case are noted in the staff report. If you would like a copy of the report, please write that on a note to the city manager and one will be provided. It is important to remember, if you fail to raise an issue with enough detail to afford the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue, you will not be able to appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The hearing will now proceed with a report from staff.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the City Council, and members of the public. Tonight, we'll begin with a zone map amendment. We're located for Hamilton Lane and Southeast Jerrine Street. This is essentially south of Fruitdale Avenue in the southeastern portion of the city. The project number is 401-00104-23. As far as the summary, the applicant requests an approval of a zone map amendment to change the subject parcel zone from R18 to R110, and the relationship to council goals to facilitate sustainable and manageable growth. Behind me are the site details. What we're acting on tonight is the blue parcel in kind of the triangle piece towards the north. Hamilton Lane runs along the eastern border, and what you see basically in red are the three parcels that the applicant does own. What he does seek is basically a rezoning for the blue parcel to R110, which currently the two parcels to the south are, and they're looking to ensure the consistency of zoning to R110. In red are the current property boundaries now. With the approval of making consistent the zoning all around the properties, the applicant does intend to provide a partition to develop the property into three parcels, developing two additional single-family homes located again to the south. Under the city's comprehensive plan, it is designated as low density, and both R18 and R110 are consistent with that comp plan amendment or comp plan designation. The proposed future development, as we spoke to, is essentially the blue lines will make up the new partition once the zoning is in place, R110, and it is allowed in terms of three parcels. However, the property does need to be rezoned because to subdivide the property into three lots as it stands now would be non-conforming in terms of zoning, since the remaining 2 lots to the south are R110 and the parcel 1 is currently R18. With the zone map amendment, this will make the zoning consistent, and then the property owner or the applicant can move forward with partitioning the property. Under the Development Code, in order to meet the zone map amendments, there are criteria. This is considered a minor amendment to the comp plan. The criteria in the Development Code is section 4.033 of the Development Code, and the criteria are is consistent with the proposed zoning, proposed zone consistent with the comp plan designation. There are adequate urban services. It's consistent with the city's master transportation system plan. Natural features are conducive to the property zone. It's consistent with the overlay districts, and timing is appropriate, of which all findings have been made. I do want to highlight a few here. In terms of adequate urban services, the applicant does propose that the 3 homes will be connected to the city sewer system. However, the current water system is over 100 feet to the city water main, and so therefore it is allowed to be on well. Also, in terms of criteria, it is consistent with the city's transportation system plan, and the timing is appropriate. There is a sufficient amount of buildable land in the UGB, and with this zone map amendment, this will provide future housing. No comments have been received, or comments have not been received from the public. And that said, the call to action date, this does meet the 120 deadline. There is a 120 deadline of October 18th to make a decision. There are no cost implications, and staff recommendation is to approve as proposed. The alternatives are behind me, and I recommend the motion as well. That concludes staff report. I believe the applicant does have a representative as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mark? No? Okay, would the applicant like to present?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Justin Gerlitz Engineering Consultants, here tonight on behalf of the applicant for the what we're calling the Hamilton Lane Zone Map Amendment. This is hopefully a pretty straightforward project compared to a lot of the projects we work on. As Mark said, it affects one specific property. The applicant has purchased what is a total of 3 properties. The triangle property, a small square right here, where this existing house straddles over, and then a larger parcel here to the south. This property is pretty unique, whereas it has Fruitdale Creek that runs all the way along the east side. So there's some steep slopes there, the creek at the bottom, kind of a plateau up here at the top, surrounded by residential on 2 sides. And then, as I'll show you here, it kind of dives down the hill towards Hamilton Lane. This is the driveway that enters up the property. Again, you can kind of follow the tree line here. This is a very, very steep bank. So that's one of the limiting factors of this property. You look at the size and it looks kind of bigger, like, oh, why isn't there more here? It's because this driveway is very close to this intersection. We couldn't build another road there because we can't have 2 intersections right next to each other. So we're kind of limited by driveway access only. This is that steep bank going down the road, and this is the creek on the east side at Hamilton Lane. Comp plan is the same on both of the properties for either zone. So this zone fits within to the low density residential. And as Mark showed, the triangle right now is R18 and the parcels to the south are R110. Reason for this specifically is the applicant would like to take those 3 parcels that are non-conforming, put them into a conforming situation, and they're planning on building 2 new homes on the property. So each of the 3 would have its own home, and that's already underway. We've worked with the city to come up with a sewer configuration that works, and those sewer services have actually been installed. And with that, again, kind of just a real minor amendment here compared to normal, and we're looking for approval of the map amendment this evening, and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions? No questions.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone who wanted to speak in opposition to the application? All right. At this time, I'll close the public hearing, and staff, do you have any final comments? No? Okay. Turn it over to council for discussion. Go ahead, Dwayne.
I move to approve the zone map amendment for parcel 36-05-28 BBE, tax lot 1200, to change the zoning designation from R18 to R110, as described in the staff report number 401-00104-23, and reading by title, first reading.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Dwayne, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Yeah, we're missing one. 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending the zoning map for property located at the corner of Hamilton Lane and Southeast Jerrine Street, Assessor's Map 360528 BB, Tax Lot 1200.
Thank you. Valerie?
I move to adopt the ordinance amending the zoning map and have it read by title only, second reading.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion? All right, Valerie, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Karen?
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending the zoning map for property located at the corner of Hamilton Lane and Southeast Jerrine Street, Assessor's Map 360528 BB, Tax Lot 1200.
Thank you. All right, our next item is to consider an ordinance. Well, at this time, I will open the public hearing to consider an application to consider an ordinance vacating the common property line between tax lots 4900 and 5200 of map number 360508 CA. We will begin the hearing with a staff report, followed by a presentation by the applicant, statements by persons in favor of the application, statements by persons in opposition to the application, and an opportunity for additional comments by the applicant and staff. After that has occurred, the public comment portion will be closed and the matter will be discussed and acted upon by the council. Is there anyone present who wishes to challenge the authority of the council to hear this matter? Do any councilors wish to abstain from participating in this hearing or declare a potential conflict of interest? Are there any councilors who wish to disclose discussions, contacts, or other ex parte information they have received prior to this meeting regarding this application? In this hearing, the decision of the council will be based on specific criteria which are set forth in the Development Code. All testimony which apply in this case are noted in the staff report. If you would like a copy of the report, please write that on a note to the city manager and one will be provided. It is important to remember if you fail to raise an issue with enough detail to afford the council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue, you will not be able to appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. The hearing will now proceed with a report from staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council and the public. This request is a property line vacation for a property at the northeast corner of 7th Street and Northeast Foster Way. The project number is 101-00164-23. A summary of this request is a vacation of our property line in between tax lots 5200 and 4900 of map 36-05-08-CA. The site map right adjacent shows the line requesting to be vacated, and the relationship to council goals is to facilitate sustainable and manageable growth. By way of a background, there are pictures above in terms of tax lot 5200, and that's looking eastward along Foster Way. And adjacent to it is tax lot 4900, located at Northeast 7th Street. In July, there was a proposed major site plan approval for a proposed parking lot expansion and drive-through ATM for these two lots. And it was basically parking expansion and ATM related to the First Community Credit Union located at 108 Southeast Savage Street. The property line vacation will allow the development of the parking spaces and the drive-through ATM. The existing structures on Northeast 7th Street are proposed to be demolished. Once combined, these tax lots will make up a parcel of approximately 0.32 acres in size. And in terms of criteria, the result property configuration does not create a substantial condition relative to the development code, and the proposal is not contrary to public health, safety, welfare, and convenience per Article 17 and 27. Staff has received no comments. And with that, the call to action date is December 19th. There are no cost implications, and the recommended motion is to approve the ordinance vacating the property line between tax lots 4900 and 5200. And then the motion of alternatives are also behind me. That concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Council, do you have any questions? No? Is the applicant here tonight? Does anyone want to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak in opposition to the application? All right. We'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for discussion. Dwayne.
I move to approve the ordinance vacating the property line between tax lot 4900 and 5200 of map number 36-05-08CA, first reading.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Dwayne, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Karen?
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass vacating the common property lines between tax lots 4900 and 5200 of map number 360508CA.
Thank you. Rick?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance vacating the property line between tax lots 4900 and 5200 of map number 3658CA, second reading, title only.
Seconded by Valerie. Any discussion? All right, Rick, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass vacating the common property lines between tax lots 4900 and 5200 of map number 360508CA.
Thank you. I know that always seems a little weird, but we have to vote twice on an ordinance, and when we have a unanimous vote, we can do it twice on the same night, and if it's not unanimous, then we do the second reading on a different night. Next up on our agenda, we have an ordinance that would amend the Development Code, Article 13, for the purpose of establishing the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Design Overlay District. Whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The item before you is a proposal for or an ordinance to amend the Development Code text amendment, introducing the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Design Overlay District design standards for residential construction. The request is a consideration of an ordinance to Article 13 of the Grants Pass Development Code, which creates the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Overlay District to be added to as a new special district. The relationship to council goals, the action relates to the council goals of facilitating manageable growth by creating a new special purpose district that designates an existing residential neighborhood in the northwest section of Grants Pass as a unique area where the collection and quality of historic homes and architectural styles is recognized by the community as being a valuable asset. For the record, again, the project is, the title is for a Development Code text amendment. The project number is 405-00137-23. It's an amendment to Article 13, a special purpose district. Owners within the overlaid boundary district were both noticed in March and in July. In terms of outreach, the draft guidelines were available through the city's website, hard copies at the public counter, and a public open house was held in April. Staff has received no written comments. And at the Historical Building and Sites Commission public hearing in August, HBSC recommended approval. By way of background, the Lawnridge-Washington plan began in 2019 as a HBSC goal, which discussed the value of protecting residential character of the city's northwest area. And the goal there was to create a design overlay district intended to protect the residential character and architectural styles found in the city's northwest area. In order to implement this, staff retained George Kramer of Kramer Company as consultant, who provided the initial draft of the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Design Overlay District design standards for residential construction. Over the course of beginning this year, the working draft was presented to HBSC in February. Owners were noticed, and the draft was released in March. On April 25th, an open house was held here in the council chambers. In June, HBSC had approved the final draft, and in July, again, owners were noticed in terms of the upcoming public hearings for HBSC in August and City Council tonight. Again, in August, HBSC recommended approval of the Lawnridge-Washington. The goals of this plan are additions to existing structures will be designed to complement and not duplicate the detail of the existing structure. Additions to the structures will be visually secondary or subservient, a quality that is achieved by a combination of placement, separation of the primary facade, reduced height, setbacks, and trim. The design guidelines introduce 8 prominent architectural styles in the northwest area. They include Craftsman, Art Deco, Spanish Colonial Revival, Bungalow, Colonial Revival, Tudor Revival, Victorian, and Ranch House. These next slides go over the text amendments being proposed, and again, Article 13. In Article 13.25 is where we adopt the overlay district map. In Article 13.7 are the new sections that they include the purpose, the effect, location, design standards, the applicability, and review procedures. Staff did highlight the design standards. The design standards will be a standalone document held in this section. The purpose of the district is to establish guidance and examples of architectural styles that are characteristic of the Lawnridge-Washington neighborhood. And the effect is the impacts building design. It only impacts the building design and no effect to the land use. The overlay district has the effect of creating objective and defined exterior standards for compatible design that will enhance the architectural character of the neighborhood. Further, the design standards, again, are adopted in section 13.713. In the review procedures, this will rely on, with these design guidelines in place, the planning division staff will review proposed additions or accessory structures at the time of building permit. So the review will no longer require any separate HBSC approval However, if there's a conflict in terms of what the owner wishes to build, and in terms of if staff does not feel that it meets these design guidelines, then that item can be kicked up for HBSC review and approval. This is a 4-step process, basically how these design guidelines will work. Step 1 is for property owners to identify what they want to build. And again, these design guidelines are the scope of them only pertain to exterior room additions or accessory structures, including an ADU or garage. Step 2 introduces the architectural style. So with the hope of these guidelines and their architect or builder, they can identify what type of architectural style their home fits. Step 3 would identify where on the property would this accessory structure or building addition go. And step 4 are the architectural guidelines for the property owner, their architect builders to utilize and to build from. This is a text amendment, so it's not subject to the 120-day deadline. The cost implications, there is additional staff time will be needed in terms of providing creative guidance documents for property owners. And there was initial allocation of $10,000 for the historical research and preparation of the design guidelines by Chrisman Company. The recommendation is to approve the ordinance amending Article 13 of the Development Code. The alternatives are behind me and proposed motion as well. That concludes staff's report. Happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mark? Vanessa?
Thank you, Mark. On page 58 of our packet, Article 13, 0.025, it actually states that we'd be adding 2 new special districts. It's, of course, the Lawnridge-Washington Historic, and then there's also the Regionally Significant Industrial Area. I was hoping to learn more about that.
Councilor, I'll have to come back to you on that. I think that was that might have been the cleanup in terms of this article, but I'll have to double check.
Okay. It's page, again, 58.
I see it now, yeah.
Yeah, 13.025, just under the general provision article. And it's highlighted as though it's an addition.
Right. Yeah, I apologize. I don't know the answer offhand. I'll have to come back.
I'll give you a minute to look that up. Are there any other questions for Mark? Rob?
Mark, you mentioned that there was public outreach, that all the owners in the area received letters and there was no written response or comment or objections. When they had the public meeting, you didn't mention if there was any oral objections. Did anyone object to doing the district?
Thank you, Councilor, for that question. No one objected. However, there was concern about these guidelines in terms of would homeowners be subject to these guidelines if they did routine maintenance on their exterior. So, for example, if shingles fell off their roof or just routine trim was falling off. There was also concern, will these design guidelines affect what's being proposed in interior improvements? And there's also concern about, does this include landscape? All those concerns were heard, and we were purposeful. Staff proposed amended change at that time in April that added a paragraph that scoped out that basically those were not included in the design guidelines. So that was the primary concern. With that we felt that there was, with that change, with the draft, again, out for the July meetings, there was no other additional comments after that.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? All right, I see that our chair of the Historic Building and Sites Commission is here. Ward, were you planning on speaking?
I'd like to.
If you'd like to present, I think this came out of your committee.
Ward Warren, Grants Pass. I'm the chair of the Historical Building and Sites Commission. And we always like to bring you projects or things that are widely supported by the public and not controversial, kind of refreshing to have those. And so this one we've been discussing, as it indicated, it's been 4 or 5 years. It received initial support from those that were on the council at that time. And from the community as well, there was a front page article in the Courier in 2018 or 2019. The reporter surveyed a lot of the residents up there, and they were all positive about it. It's the neighborhoods where the Porch Fest is held. People love that part of town, and basically the idea was to protect the historic integrity and character of those neighborhoods, especially once the state had come up with the requirement or whatever to kind of basically to do away with single-family residential zoning and to allow ADUs on basically any property in the city. And our reaction to that was, ooh, that might not be really good for those neighborhoods. So it might be nice to come up with something like this that would preserve the integrity and character of those neighborhoods. And this proposal does that very simply. It's not at all onerous. It's similar to the downtown historic district, only it's residential. And it doesn't really get into the details like the downtown historic district does. So we don't talk about paint colors or signage or all those other things that we deal with businesses. But we found through a public forum, as Mark alluded to, 2 direct mail letters to all the property owners. We had the public forum, probably 20 people showed up. They had questions. Staff and the commission addressed those and answered those questions. And then we advised them again with another letter that we were going to have a public hearing. And the only people that showed up were residents that came in to express how happy they were that we were doing this for their neighborhoods. And I've actually had several people ask that live in other neighborhoods up there, when is this coming to their neighborhood? So, you know, that's always possible in the future. I think once everybody sees that this is popular, if you want to expand it, you can do that. But anyway, so that's basically it. And I want to thank Mark and Jason Mackey for their assistance. And I think it's a very good proposal. It's simple, straightforward, and has simple guidelines. So thank you all for your consideration. Any questions?
No questions, thank you. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak on behalf of this proposal? Is there anyone who wanted to speak in opposition? All right, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for discussion. Rick.
I'd like to make a motion to move to adopt the ordinance amending Article 13 Special Purpose Districts and have it read by title only, first reading, with an amendment under Section 13025 to strike out the words regionally significant industrial area.
Seconded by Vanessa. Was that can just be struck? Okay. So we have a motion by Rick, seconded by Vanessa. Any discussion on the motion? Rob.
Yeah, just briefly, I'd like to say that, when I first came to Grants Pass in '95, that neighborhood really stood out to me, and it's actually one of the reasons that I moved here, and I actually bought a home in that neighborhood because I was real impressed with the historic aspects of it. Fast forward to about 18 or 19 when I was on the Historic Commission, and once it was clear that ADUs were going to be real popular, the commission recognized that that could be problematic in that neighborhood as far as visually creating visual chaos. And I just want to thank Ward, because more than anybody in the city, through 5 years, even though it was real simple to him, as a matter of fact, virtually everything that we're going to hopefully approve tonight was really simple and clear to him 5 years ago. We had to look at, staff had to look at every detail, had to hire a consultant, et cetera, and so here we are, basically about to hopefully approve what Ward's vision was, and only because I think that he kept pushing it, quite frankly, because I think it would have died 2 or 3 times if he hadn't kept pushing it, even though there was really no resistance. It just was one of those things that inertia we had to push past the do-nothing inertia. So I want to thank him and the commission for making sure that we kept on it, because it's, I think, nothing but positive. There's 2 properties up there that already did something like this. There's one that they knocked down an older house and they recreated. It's on Lawnridge, up near Midland, what's called neo-traditional. They basically created a house that looks like it's from the 1930s, but on the inside, because I saw it every step of the way of the construction, the inside, it's modern. There's big rooms, long sight lines, et cetera, but it really fits in with the neighborhood beautifully. And then 2 doors down from that one, someone who added a garage that fits in beautifully with the character of his house, which is also probably a 1930s house. So we see examples of how it can work really well, and this just would help ensure that other people would take that inspiration and also go further and do something similar. If they wanted to knock down a house and rebuild, it would fit in nicely with the neighborhood, because we have 2 beautiful examples up there where it's already been done.
Any further discussion? All right, Rick, you made the motion to adopt the ordinance with 1 small amendment, and how do you vote?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Valerie?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending Development Code Article 13 Special Purpose Districts to establish the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Design Overlay District as amended.
Valerie?
I move to adopt the ordinance with the amendment before amending Article 13 Special Purpose District and have it read by title only, second reading.
Seconded by Dwayne. Discussion? Valerie, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass amending Development Code Article 13 Special Purpose Districts to establish the Lawnridge-Washington Historic Design Overlay District as amended.
Thank you. Next up, we'll move into council action. We have an ordinance that would amend the Grants Pass Municipal Code, Chapter 4.05, regarding our transient lodging tax.
Good evening, Council and Mayor and members of the public. I'm Dana Pierce of the Economic Development Division for the Community Development Department. And this evening I'm going to go over the Lodging Tax Ordinance Amendment. This ordinance amends the Chapter 4 of the Grants Pass Municipal Code to be more consistent with the state of Oregon method for collecting lodging tax, which includes incidental charges in the the lodging tax collector's base tax rate. This amendment was initiated by the city's Tourism Advisory Committee, and it also relates to council goals by encouraging economic opportunities and enhancing community safety. The city's current lodging tax does not require the incidental charges be included in the lodging tax collector's base rate. However, the ORS does say a local transient lodging tax must compute on the total retail price, including all charges other than taxes paid by the person or occupancy of the transient lodging. So aligning the lodging tax collection methods with the state of Oregon, we can increase the city's lodging tax revenue. We can also decrease the lodging tax collector's administrative costs and time, as well as encourage economic opportunities by increasing the lodging tax to help fund our facilities, economic development, and also public safety efforts. The change to the Muni Code 4.05.020, which is talking about tax imposed. The last line says, in all cases, the rent paid or charged for occupancy shall include the sale of any goods, services, or commodities consistent with OAR 150-320-0040 and the lodging tax collection method outlined in ORS 320.355. The revenue source is the transient lodging tax. The amount of the increased revenues are yet to be determined, but there is an Exhibit 2 that you have there that you can see a sample receipt. In FY23, the city's lodging tax receipts totaled approximately $2.7 million. Something to consider for cost implications are the staff time involved in monitoring and providing customer service. Staff also recommends establishing an effective date of January 1st of 2024. This will allow time for communication and a cleaner filing process. That all said, the call to action tonight is at council discretion. You can move to consent or to an additional workshop. The alternatives would be to choose to enact the ordinance as proposed, amend the ordinance, or to choose not to enact it. And here are potential motions.
Thank you, Dana. Council, do you have any questions? I guess they don't.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this issue? Please. No? Okay. All right, we'll close public comment and turn it back to council for discussion. Valerie.
I move to adopt the ordinance amending Grants Pass Municipal Code 4.05.020 as proposed, effective January 1st, 2024, to align with the state's lodging tax collection method, be read by title only, first reading.
Seconded by Rick. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Valerie, you made the motion. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
No. Yes. We didn't ask.
Hang on. I got to keep track of yeses and nos if you're not all in agreement. Dwayne, go ahead.
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
All right. Motion passes 6-1.
An ordinance of the Council of the City of Grants Pass, amending Grants Pass Municipal Code, Chapter 4.05, Lodging Tax.
Thank you. And since that one is not unanimous, we'll skip the second reading tonight and move on to item B, which is a resolution that would amend the options agreement.
At this point, I'm going to recuse myself simply because there is a conflict of interest.
Okay. And she's going to step down. Okay. All right. Looks like Amber Neek is here for the presentation.
All right. So I'm here to present on the resolution amending the option agreement to develop affordable housing on surplus land known as the SW Ramsey Avenue Property through Chrisman Development. This resolution would amend the option agreement to develop 66 units of affordable housing on surplus real property known as the SW Ramsey Avenue Property, map and tax lot 36-05-30-BB-002201 to Chrisman Development, Inc. This relationship to council goals falls under facilitate sustainable, manageable growth by encouraging an environment which provides for the growth of affordable housing opportunities to meet the diversity of Grants Pass residents' needs. A little bit of background. On December 15th of 2021, council approved the resolution authorizing the sale of the Ramsey property to Chrisman. In spring of 2022, as well as spring of 2023, Chrisman applied for and was not awarded the Local Innovation and Fast Track, or LIFT, affordable housing funding. This year, the project was not awarded. However, they were ranked as the next property that would have received that award. Both of those funding rounds were affected by extra points awarded to projects in wildfire-affected areas, which Grants Pass would not have qualified for. It is Chrisman's understanding that the next LIFT notice of funding availability will no longer have these bonus points interacting with those decisions. On July 13th of 2023, city staff did meet with the Chrisman team, who reaffirmed their commitment to the Ramsey, Nebraska development and plan to reapply for the affordable housing funding next year. Upon meeting with Chrisman, staff is optimistic in their ability to receive affordable housing program funding. So call to action is today, or council discretion. Cost implications. The proceeds from the sale of this property are designated to be placed into the Affordable Housing Fund to help ameliorate the city's housing shortage. Staff recommendation is to approve the resolution amending the option agreement, and then I have a couple alternatives down below for you as well.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions for Amber? No? Is there anyone from the public who wanted to speak on this issue?
This is Shelley Cullen with Chrisman Development. I don't know if this is time for me to add some additional comment with Amber's comments.
Okay, sure, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, as Amber said, we were the next project to be funded. And even since our July meeting with the city staff, we found out that we were approved by the Housing Authority for 35 units of the 60 units for project-based rental assistance, which means we'll be able to serve 30 to 50% area median income population, and will give us a substantial points for being able to serve that lower income population. So again, we feel a lot more confident now that we would be successful on our next application. We don't know exactly when Oregon Housing will release the NOPA. Hopefully it'll be sometime in first quarter of next year, but we're ready to go with an application. So I'm here if you have any questions for our team.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any questions? No, we don't. Thank you. All right, and we didn't have anyone from the public who wanted to speak, so I will close the public comment and turn it to council for discussion. DJ.
I move to approve the resolution amending the option agreement to develop affordable housing on surplus real property known as the SW Ramsey Avenue Property to Chrisman Development Incorporated.
Is there a second? Seconded by Vanessa. Any discussion? All right, DJ, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. And we'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the City Council on items not related to a public hearing or council action item before the council tonight. The intent is to provide information that is pertinent to the city's jurisdiction. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the council as one body, not to individuals. At the conclusion of public comment, council will have an opportunity to respond. This meeting will proceed in an effective and courteous manner. Citizens and council members will be allowed to state their positions in an atmosphere free from slander, threats, or personal attacks. Signs or placards, outbursts of applause, campaigning for public office, or other disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. If you have a question regarding any government-provided service or a current city policy, please contact the city manager's office in an attempt to resolve the matter. And I have a couple of blue cards for people that I'll call up. I wanted to note one of the blue cards does mention an idea for the Flying Lark, and I just wanted to let everybody know that that is owned by the county and the city doesn't have any jurisdiction over that. So you might consider whether that affects your comments. David Dapper.
Hello? Working? Okay. Hi, I'm David Dapper, city resident. And I was here Monday, and I believe there was a gross misrepresentation of what is living in our parks. There are disabled and elderly people that do need help, and there are people that want help. But a lot of these people are 20, 30-year-old hippies that just don't want anything to do with civilization. I see it every day. We were down there Sunday, and the sprinkler heads that just got all replaced, 4 of them are already busted because they bust them off so they don't spray on their tents. So that's, and there were needle caps all over the ground by there. We took pictures of them. I sent all of you an email attached to a picture of my neighbor's mailbox when she didn't get to her mail on time. Busted open and scattered all over the ground. The nonprofits need to do what they're doing. That needs to be done. but there are neighborhoods that just aren't equipped for what it brings. As around Tussing Park, West Park Street, small neighborhoods just not equipped to handle this mass migration it brings. Same with Morrison, and the same with Baker Park. We need to find a place that's equipped to handle this. One place where the people can get their stuff they need and also be reached. They're the ones that aren't just lost out in the corners where no one sees them, that can be reached with the services they need and a way out. Because I wouldn't want to be a 25-year-old lady living out there amongst God knows what. And I've talked to old people that everything they have gets stolen at night, or every time they turn their back, they're robbed, and the true victims. And if there was one place, not in these city parks, that could be provided where they could be safe, it would really help everybody. And as far as the schedule that the nonprofits need, I don't know that people get hungry once a week or once a month. Maybe these nonprofits, they could form a roundtable group where they could all share ideas and not duplicate each other, and that would be better for everyone. And like I said, there are people out there. I'm not out to, down with everybody. There are people that really do need help and need rescued nightly from out of this mess. Anyway, thank you.
Kristen Rich? No? Okay, is there anybody else who wanted to speak during public comment tonight? Please state your name and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Dale Aldridge, City of Grants Pass. Walk in the parks. Hey, we got a group that says clean the parks. And I know that there's an email floating around for what to do with the Frisbee golf course. And within our group, we've kind of decided, leave it where it is. One day we'll get that park back. I really do hope so, where I can have my kids and play that park again with the around the Frisbee golf course. When we walk in the parks, do you feel safe? I know I don't. There's parks that I'm scared. Even our group is scared, walking in with guns and their bear spray and stuff. They're afraid to go to that park too. Tessie Park is one of them. Definitely Morrison Park. And I've been accosted at Lawnridge, which I don't know what they're done, but they sure have cleaned that park up a bunch. There was a congressman that came to the Ambassador Hall. I know one of you here were there. And he had one idea that stuck out in my mind. Who's in the park? Who is in the park right now? What can we do for them? 50% of the people that I take on my Uber are regulars. But nowadays, there's this little group called Greyhound Station, take me to Riverside Park. I heard it's the best place in town to go. Backpack on, stinking up my back in my cab. It's a ridiculous. I've got people living in hotels right now, are sofa hopping, and they work a job, and they don't have a place to live. Now, you guys, I know you're doing your best, but there's a lot more we can do to get people out off the street. First off, we got to know who's in that park. What are they doing? What do they need? We definitely need more housing. And I just lost my place. There's a lot of new apartments going up. And believe it or not, I'm taking a lot of people to those apartments as Airbnbs, which does us no good for our housing. So there's got to be some kind of restriction on these new apartments going up that Airbnbs, including my own condo associates, restrict it. We need to make that happen in the future for any of our new housing coming up. One day we're going to be able to walk through the parks, play in the parks. Greyhound Station, ridiculous. I can't believe it. I have to actually instruct them, hey, you can't you can't camp in Riverside Park. I'll take you to the West Riverside Park. Because their word is out. The unhoused knows Grants Pass is a great place to come. Beautiful surroundings, wonderful people. And the beggars, oh my gosh. I had a guy come up to me at my own fiance's restaurant and wouldn't leave the premises. So I got to get that letter and send it in to him because they're begging for money on every corner now. It's a new job. And we've got to do something to change this. One last thing. Riverside Park has a lot of campers during the day. And I think we can maybe come thinking outside the box and put in a 2 or 4 hour restriction of cars parked in that park so that we can at least encourage my friends to take their kids to the park during the day without seeing all these homeless people living in their cars. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to speak during comment? Please step forward, state your name, and it was you, and let us know whether or not you live in the city. It's okay to line up if you want.
Catherine Hamilton, the county. A store recently in Oregon lost its selling privileges for cigarettes because they sold 3 times to people under 21. You have to be 21 to purchase alcohol and or consume alcohol or marijuana, 18 to vote, 16 to drive. Because of Prop 110, I can't find an age to do a line of Coke. I mean, apparently there is no age. 110, I guess, legalized it across the board for anybody, which is just terrifying and insane to me. Oregon Measure 110, the Drug Decriminalization and Addiction Treatment Initiative. Where's our addiction and treatment help? Where's all this money is being thrown at the homeless, which are probably 80% drug addicts. Where's the money for the addiction treatments? I keep hearing, I got somebody who works in treatment, there's no money, I don't know, I don't get this. I would like to ask you guys, Medford, Jackson County, they're not happy about 110. I'm seeing a lot of other places in the state that's not happy about 110. I would like to ask you guys it's not the homeless, it's not about the injunction, it's 110. To say, we're not happy about 110. That's what I would like to ask you guys on that. And I listened to part of the workshop the other day about the nonprofits handing out stuff in the park. I was listening to part of it. Tuesday, May 16th of 23, the Daily Courier had the article where you guys were going to allow the nonprofit, the Joko Span-Neuter, to allow the cats to stay in Baker Park, which chaos down there anyway. But you were going to require them to have $1 million liability policy on their tails and to cover the city's tails. I don't think that's a lot to ask for the nonprofits handing out stuff. And you wanted an annual report from Joko Span-Neuter detailing the number of cats trapped, fixed, released, and population of the cats at the park, only for Baker Park. I would like to see that for the humans. Let's find out how many humans are in the parks getting handed coffee or donuts or whatever they're doing for them. I think if you required it for the cats, it should be for the humans. Thank you.
Anybody else? Step forward, state your name, and let us know whether or not you live in the city.
Okay, Thomas Blankenhorn, Grants Pass, Oregon. As some already know, and maybe some will know more by the news eventually, a store manager yelled the F word at me, and I told him that no store manager could say that to a customer. One would think that the one saying the F word would be disorderly conduct, but not according to the police in this city. The one who said that the store manager should not say the F word to the customer is the one who gets arrested. Now, there's a lot of things I was going to say here, but I'm so dizzy right now. The store manager made a false report. And so when I asked the police department to go after that person for making making a false report, they do not want to do it because it would show that they made an error in arresting the wrong person. I say that's terrible. Now, there's store video that could be used for evidence for the internal investigation of the police officer also making a false report. But they do not want to secure that video. They want to just go by the video that they have in possession. And I say, if you have other video that could actually help show the truth, that they should actually use that as well. And I would hope that you would help mandate that they actually make use of all evidence available and not just pick what they want to have and then come up with that, oh, we did no wrongdoing. We've heard how this happens a lot. Okay. Now, I've been asking for records from the police department. I can't get any straightforward answers. I asked specifically for a certain video, and they tell me all sorts of things, roundabout ways, not telling me specifically what will be in the video. Because I asked for when I was stepped outside the store and into the police car, and if you're just told you're in the back seat, that doesn't say, is there something else beyond that? And when I keep asking, I don't get any response. Now, any law-abiding citizen could actually have experienced what I did. Anybody here, throughout the whole country, society could not stick together if we have police officers who do not want to listen to the evidence, because even when I told him, the arresting officer, once he showed up, that the store manager yelled the F word at me, he did not care. It was quickly to handcuff me and take me out. Thank you.
My name's Bonnie McDonald, and I'm a resident of Grants Pass. And I just wanted to make an observation, or tell you an observation. It appears that the new ordinances are not working effectively in the park. We're still having violence, we're still having needles, we're still having issues in the park. And so my question is, if someone gets a ticket on G Street, they pay the ticket to the city, not G Street. If they trespass on 6th Street, the infraction is against the city, not 6th Street. It is an infraction against the city entity, not against the location. So why, when a person commits an infraction in one of our parks, it is considered an infraction against the singular location, not against the park system? Currently, individuals evicted from one park due to an infraction simply relocate to another park. Can this be changed so that an infraction in any one of our parks is an infraction against our parks system, and the punishment be applicable to the park system, not the individual location? So thank you for listening.
Please step up.
Hi, my name is Teresa Cook. I am a county resident, but I am a business owner in the city. I own the Cowboy Corral on 6th Street. I agree with Catherine, Measure 110 needs to be repealed. It is absolutely not working. It's a disaster. It's a mess. And I also believe that the nonprofits that are handing out free items should be stopped. We need to stop giving the homeless free things in this city. There are rumors going from Los Angeles all the way up to Seattle. Now, go to Grants Pass. Drugs are legal and everything is free. I've heard that from homeless people. I have to run people off from my foyer, from my property and my alley almost on a daily basis. Yesterday, I had 2 of them come into my foyer and start huffing a spray can of something. And I had to run out there and yell at them and run them off. And they turned around, walked away slowly, cussing me out. They're running away my business. People will not come into my store because of the human feces in the alley, the throw up on the sidewalk. I come in the morning and there's juice jugs full of pee in my foyer. There's garbage from the people that have camped out there overnight. There's cigarette butts. There's marijuana butts. I mean, it's horrible. It's awful. All of us business owners that are downtown in historical district have complained and complained and complained and complained. Nothing, absolutely nothing is being done. We're so sick of it. There's so many businesses that have closed because they can't deal with it. We can't do business and we can't make a living in this town when the homeless and the druggies are running up and down the street, creating havoc. I mean, I pick up needles in my alley. Every morning I come to work and there's either needles or there's food garbage or there's human feces or there's throw up. I'm scared to death to walk my dog down the alley. I just heard a story a week ago about somebody's dog that was licking up something in the park and died. Within an hour, they took that dog to the emergency vet. They did an autopsy and the dog died of fentanyl poisoning. A dog in the park. I haven't been able to take my granddaughter to the park in 3 years. I pay my taxes. Where's the tax money going? Somebody said to the general fund. Well, what's the general fund for? You know, I'm sorry, we're done. We're tired of it. We're sick of it. We need to do something about these people. And the number one thing is stop giving away freebies. Stop giving them stuff. They may just go away. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello, my name is Charlotte Blankenhorn, and I've been a resident here for 38 years. And my husband and I and our 3 sons have been law-abiding citizens. I don't think I mentioned, after living here for 1 year, I become a business woman. But anyway, I'm here to speak on behalf of my son, Thomas Blankenhorn, that spoke of a while back, and my husband and I had witnessed abuse. And an officer had my son grabbed by the arm, left bruises on him, on his hip, slamming him against the police car, his head falling, almost touching the hood of the car. Then the supervisor told him to get in the car. My son did everything they told him to do. He gets 1 foot in, and this officer couldn't wait until he got a 2nd foot in because he has handcuffs, trying to balance himself. And with 2 hands, he's over 6'3", a big man, over twice the weight of my son, and pushes him, and my son falls over, almost touching that seat, trying to steady himself. And I'm asking the police officer, what did my son do so wrong? What did he do? Tell me. And they said, oh, this is under investigation. And he said, you're standing too close to me. Do you have a knife or a gun on you? Like he's fearing a woman who is 82 years old, and then calling another policeman on me, and telling me they're taking me to jail with my son. I didn't do anything. I asked a question about my son. I don't know, do I have any more time?
The red light will go off.
My husband is standing out there. He's going to be 87. He doesn't have long to live. His eyes are all filled with tears.
Okay, red light, your time is up. Thank you. Okay, anybody else have anything, public comment? Okay, if there is no more public comment, then at this point I will open it up for council to respond. Dwayne?
Yeah, just go down to respect some of these people that came here and spoke, just to give them some response back. I think they deserve some of that. So, David, I hear you. I saw your emails. Just because the doctor said that, I told you this already, said that doesn't mean I believe that. I know that's not the truth. I'm down at the parks. I know that not all 600 of them are poor homeless people with elderly. I know there is some down there, and and right now I think they're more at Morrison right this minute, because I see them there with their walkers and stuff. So, and I do see the bad ones. You know that. We've talked. So, I don't think any of us are so gullible that know that there's not criminals and drug addicts and stuff down there. We see the pictures. And I think we hear you. And I wish I had all the answers, and we've talked a million times probably, and you've messaged me, but I would love to get them out of the park. I would love to find a thing here, but I feel like everything that from the top up, and I'm talking from the president up, down, all the way down through our state, is making it worse. You know what I'm saying? Between open borders, regulations, everything that's going on. If we really wanted a housing issue, we would change the way we do things. So, it's a hard wall to be changing this, and I think what Catherine said and Teresa about Measure 110, we have something coming out that's working on right now. We are going to make a statement as a council and a city. So as soon as that's ready, we will make that statement. I think everybody up here I shouldn't say for everybody, but I think we all don't like Measure 110 and the drug use. We want to get them treatment. I think that's all of us would agree that we would like to get people treatment. We don't want to lock every single person up. But, the ones that do need to be locked up should be going. And the ones that need treatment, get them to treatment. And what they have right now is not working. So we need to do something better. So I do hear you. Dell, the Airbnb, someone brought this up to me tonight about Airbnbs because they're asking me about housing issues. And I would say, I read the planning thing, and there's a new application for Airbnbs. It seems like, at least once or every other week or 2 or 3 a month. And I would say we have a house in Tahoe, and they stop Airbnbs. No more Airbnbs because, and I understand why Airbnbs, because the landlord laws are horrible. And that's just coming to me as a realtor. I don't like them. And then some people now are doing Airbnbs because they're more profitable. Maybe that's something we need to look at, is there being a cap on Airbnbs. That could be a thing. And Bonnie, I'm going to let Chief talk to this about the parks, because he's got some officers that are off duty that have been gone, administrative, and 2 remain, ones for the park, and he can address the other comments about those legal stuff too, because we don't know all those things. So I'd rather let Chief Hensman speak about those things.
Yeah, we're struggling with staffing right now. We've had a lot of critical incidents that have occurred over the last several weeks. We're still recovering from an officer-involved shooting that occurred, I believe, on the 24th of August. With that shooting, 3 police officers are put on administrative leave per protocol, and all 3 of those officers have not returned to work yet, but we expect some of them to return soon. It's something that we'll work on internally, and I don't want to go into too much detail about that. But as we talk about different staffing levels built into the police department, we struggle with officers that are put on light duty. We get into fights with people, I'll say often enough. In fact, just the other day, we had an officer get hurt, and he is now on light duty. I have another officer who went on light duty yesterday. So that's just 5 right there. I have people that are in training, and I have people that need to fill open slots. So we continue to struggle to step up our game. However, while I have to manage staffing related issues, the structure within the organization, we also look for solutions to maintain at least what we've done so far, because I believe it's incredibly important to be consistent with our enforcement. We are incredibly consistent with our enforcement, and all the citizens of Grants Pass need to do is look at the numbers that the Oregon judicial system, post, I think monthly, to show who's actually writing ballot measure 110 citations. You'll see that Josephine County is close to 1,200 ballot measure 110 citations. And I'm confident the majority of those tickets are from Grants Pass Police because we believe in holding people accountable. We also believe in directing people into addiction services. So there is a number that we've actually embedded onto that citation. So while we have to speak to a case screening and or opportunity for services, it's there for them to utilize maybe at a later date and time. But the reality is, I want to say there might be maybe 1% of the people have actually called the case screening number, so it's really low. As far as every other statute goes, we arrest people in Grants Pass for everything from a shoplift to menacings, domestic shootings. We unfortunately have it all, and then we have to prioritize the level of incidents that go on within our community. In the state of Oregon, a violation is not an arrestable offense, period. Officers cannot take somebody into custody for that. So we have to work around that. Within our park system, if you receive a municipal code violation 2 times within the space of a year, you can be trespassed from that park, and then it does turn into a criminal matter, a criminal trespass matter. I don't want to talk and take the time away from the council. This is not my meeting. I am available all the time for the citizenry. All you have to do is call me. I will make the time to talk to you in greater detail. In fact, I'm thinking of having a quarterly meeting with the community that it's just like an open house thing. Come in and talk to me about anything, but hopefully that answered some of the questions out there.
Anybody else? All right, Karen, emails?
So there was one email concerned with the proposed development at 220 Glencrest Way, and 3 emails requesting to find a place for nonprofits to provide services for the homeless people besides the parks.
All right, consent agenda. These items are of such routine nature without controversy that they may be approved in a single action. And our council president, if you would please read the consent agenda.
Okay, this is a consent agenda for September 20th, 2023. Item A, resolution authorizing the city manager to submit a grant application and upon award, enter into an agreement for the U.S. Economic Development Administration's Distressed Area Recompete Pilot Program. Item B, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Axon Enterprise Incorporated to purchase the Officer Safety Plan 10+. Item C, resolution providing financial assistance to the Grants Pass Sobering Center. Items D, motion approving the minutes of the City Council meeting September 6th. E, the minutes of the Tourism Advisory Committee of August 1st. F, minutes of the Urban Tree Advisory Committee for July 10th. And G, acknowledging the minutes of the Pub Committee and Public Art meeting of August 8th, 2023. With that, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Seconded by Dwayne. All right, Valerie, you made the motion to approve. How do you vote?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Matters from our mayor and council comments. I was just going to say that 3 of the councilors and I went and toured the Roseburg homeless facility last week. It was a nice tour. At UCAN, they have 10 outdoor units that are pallet shelters. Pods, yeah, pods is maybe a better name. Some people get the idea that pallet shelters are made out of pallets, and it's not at all true. They're just basically a mini independent unit. They were air conditioned and heated, and just a small bedroom. It doesn't have plumbing, but it does have electrical in these particular units, which were outside, and it's good because it obviously gets quite hot sometimes. So it was nice that they had air conditioning. People were able to have dogs, so somebody had a dog in their unit. And then they were just about to open a indoor congregate shelter as well. So we were able to see where they had the beds for that setup, but they didn't actually have people staying in it yet. It's right in a residential neighborhood where they said that they have a good relationship with the neighbors there, that UCAN has been providing services there for a number of years. So the neighbors were already familiar with the population and people coming in and out, and that they just don't have a lot of problems. It was very quiet and well kept and clean, and they still need to do a little landscaping. They said they're going to fix it up outside a little bit nicer even than it is right now, but overall it was a nice visit, and it shows the potential of what we can do here. And again, just setting up a facility like that will help us to move people out of our parks, and we all have the shared goal of moving homeless people, I think, out of our parks, and that's what setting up a, whether it's a campground or an indoor shelter would help us do. Anything that council wanted to share tonight? Vanessa?
I did want to add on to that. I was one of the counselors in attendance, and two things became pretty clear after listening through the tour is that, one, the city of Roseburg has really deep buy-in to these types of projects, not only at a state representative level, but also their city council. They also have a commission on homelessness, so it really displayed perfectly that not politicizing the issue and understanding that it is a complex issue, putting all the ideas forward, everyone from the state level all the way down to the city level, putting their heads together and coming up with solutions. And it is blossoming an amazing amount of work that they're doing. They also have, I spent some time over the weekend reading their homeless commission minutes, and there's even a urban campground in the town of Sutherland. And I think everyone understands well the demographics. It's maybe the opposite of Portland in that community. So it goes to show that it is not a political issue. It is just, understanding that homelessness is a complex issue. It's easy to say that all 600 people are or are not criminals, but every single one of those people have different stories. There are people that cause ruckus in the community, and there are people that genuinely need help. And I would like this council to move forward and revisit again on how we can help those that would like the help.
Valerie?
I was also there. I will say, and this is something I think that is important to know, is that they did receive a $3.2 million grant for a 2-year program from the state. And I think that's a big part of it. And that was the impetus that got it going. And it was, and talking to Sean, who is the UCAN representative who has been working with it, he has stated again and again that it can't be a one-time funding that doesn't have any breadth and following through. So that's also a part of the equation, is getting the spot, and they were able to get that spot. And part of the reason they did have the cooperation is because it was a UCAN facility beforehand, and had, the neighbors were familiar and comfortable with that location as a part of it. I do believe, in my heart, that we do need a shelter, and I would like to commend UCAN for what they've done and how they have made some demands that it is ongoing and funding is ongoing, and they have, he's agreed to take it on because of that funding. But I also will say that a lot of the funding did come from the state. So it's something that we will have to continue to politic for, is getting the money to get us going, and hopefully the buy-in from the community, because we all know we want to help, but we also want it to be something that is sustainable. So we don't want to throw something at something that can't sustain itself. So this is a different topic that I would like to bring up, and that is just public safety. One of the things I think that as a council we need to come out in support of is, and let the public know that we do plan on funding our public safety moving forward. I guess it was the last meeting when we put a stop or a hold on the water fee. It was not saying that it was not going to be utilized, because it may be utilized. It was just saying that we're going to look at all options as we move forward with making decisions how to fund our police and our fire, because we know we need police and fire. We know that the amount of money that we have currently is not enough to, you've heard some of the things that Warren has talked about, some of the difficulties we have now in funding it, and we will fund it. So one of the options that's still on the table is a water fee. We are asking, I do know that Brian and a couple of counselors wanted to have more information and numbers on the possible 1% sales tax as well as a meals tax, so that we have all the information available to us when we come to the conclusion of what we're going to do. But I do want to say and assure you that everyone up here is in support of funding police and fire to the point where we are covered safety.
Rob?
Yeah, I'd like to just say that I agree with everything Valerie just said regarding public safety funding. Also, I'd like to mention that I also toured the shelter up in Roseburg, and a couple of things that really struck me was we hear, and it's understandable for people that have never seen a facility like that, you have a vision in your mind or a picture of just piles of garbage or piles of discarded belongings, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, one of the things that struck me was, and I asked when I went up there, I said, well, where are your customers? I expected to see lots of homeless people milling around on the sidewalk, creating a problem. There weren't any people like that coming and going. And, people talk about a low barrier shelter, and I think that the connotation for a lot of people is that it's a no barrier shelter. I mean, I was struck with the fact that there are a lot of rules. There's order. There's people there that want to keep order, and they do. And, low barrier is not no barrier. And I think that obviously they are trying to help as many people as possible, and or want to help as many people as possible, and that does involve rounding some corners every now and again with regards to who they admit. But I would say that it seemed to me that there was order, there was discipline, and the people who are in that facility are likely very, very safe, or much, much safer than they would ever be on the street. And it's just not the picture that a lot of the public might have of what a low barrier shelter might look like. It was very orderly, and it seemed like a very safe place for those people to be.
Anybody else with comments tonight? Vanessa?
I did just want to second the request for additional information on sales tax, food and beverage tax.
Yeah, it is my understanding that there are several counselors that are wanting staff to compute, projections of what a 1% sales tax and, or just what a percentage of sales tax and food and beverage tax. Is that something we want to address tonight?
Yeah, from the information that Councilor DeLaGrange had sent out, it sounds like what we were working with previously were some outdated numbers, so we were just looking for some modern estimates as to what that revenue could be.
Rob?
Yeah, specifically, I think that JC and Aaron understand what I asked for, I think for the first time in the 3-on-1s we had a month ago or whatever, is that we had some figures from Ashland that they seem to bring in about $2.7 million a year with when we were looking at the businesses that might pay in to a food and beverage tax in Grants Pass. I think the number was, that JC compiled, was 237 potential businesses. The question that I had was, how many businesses in Ashland did it take to bring in that 2.7 million? If it was 150 or so, then maybe it would be reasonable to extrapolate that Grants Pass might be able to bring in over $4 million a year if we knew the number of businesses in Ashland that were paying in. That was the one figure that I felt I needed to have a better idea of what a potential sales tax could bring in, a potential food and beverage tax rather, could bring in Grants Pass.
Valerie?
Well, I was just going to add, it was my understanding that they were having a hard time getting the number from Ashland, and that Ashland does not have to give us that number. So that, it's just kind of a funny part of the law, but I do know that they have reached out, and I don't know if they've had any success beyond that, but that was my understanding.
Yeah, we have continually reached out to the City of Ashland, and in their code, it does state that they're not obligated to provide any information with regards to their sales tax. So that could be the reason why we're not getting responses to our requests for that specific information. There are, other opportunities for us to try to figure out what we may be able to get with the food and beverage tax besides the City of Ashland that JC has tracked down and tried to determine also. I'm understanding from this conversation that Council's also interested in re-looking at in more detail the overall tax, sales tax in general, which is a broader discussion than what's on the agenda coming up on the 13th of November, which was more discussion on a food and beverage tax and public safety funding. So we can try to prepare some more numbers on a general sales tax. If council has concurrence that we will try to do so based on the methodology that was determined by the previous council on what was acceptable for a sales tax. Say, for instance, the cap. What is included, what is not included. The methodology for the sales tax has not been discussed in detail with this council. If council is okay with just utilizing what the previous council had discussed and came up with as what's an acceptable account for the sales tax, then we will work off of those numbers.
Dwayne?
There was a recent article or something about the water treatment being the running for the 50 million. I don't think we were told about it, but I just wanted to know what that meant, because that's really on my mind about, we're talking about taxing and all this sort of stuff, but where are we at in the water treatment, or what's that?
Sure. Jason's not here right now, but I can tell you that we did send Mayor Council an email stating that we were in the running for this, and we've passed the state that we were in last year for the BRIC grant, which means from a federal level, it was an approved project for the $50 million. Now from there, it goes into a technical review stage where we're in right now, where they've said, okay, this looks like it is a fundable project for the $50 million. Now let's take a look at the technical aspects of it, which is much further than where we went last year, and it is good news that we're at the state that we're at right now. We're one step closer to receiving those funds.
Yeah, I do want to just add one little piece of information to that the 50 million isn't necessarily guaranteed at this point. So in that technical review, they can reduce that dollar amount from the $50 million ask that we have.
All right, so in terms of information about a sales tax or food and beverage tax, we need to just provide direction and make sure we have several counselors who are interested, and Brian has his hand up. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you. Just regarding the sales tax and food and beverage tax projections, I don't know that council knows what the original conditions are that were used for the calculation, so it's just hard to write off on that. So we'd probably need to know what those original conditions were before we decide either way.
Okay, so we'll take another look. I don't know if we've received that in a memo or...
We have not discussed it on the dais and workshops in detail, the sales tax, just the sales tax in general. The food and beverage is much easier to explain, and we have talked about it a little bit. But the general 1% has not been discussed in any real detail with regards to the methodology and what is included. We have that information. We can get that to you in a memo or something along those lines. But if you wanted to have an open discussion, then it would probably be good to facilitate another workshop on that in the future, or have that scheduled for part of the discussion for the November 13th workshop if you wanted to do that. Just I would need to know, because I want to make sure the expectation is clear. Are we trying to update the numbers to our best ability between now and November 13th on the current methodology, or are you wanting to have a discussion on the current methodology for us to then take a look at what that might bring in? So that's going to be, those are the two questions I have.
Rick?
So I would be in favor of bringing it to November 13th, and I also would be fine with the parameters that were expressed before in the sales tax that was used. Thank you.
Valerie?
I just have a question, the parameters of that, are those the sales numbers from clear back, or is that just from 2015? Am I correct? That was when it was, because we went for the law enforcement agency with the county, but those numbers were county-wide as opposed to city-wide. So I'm assuming then the food and beverage, that was what was brought up in 2015, am I correct?
No, the food and beverage has just been brought up recently. When we did the 2015 and sent that to the voters in the past, it was for a cross-the-board tax with some exemptions and specific criteria associated with a cap.
Okay, and I like I said, I came on in 2015, but it was actually before I was on, so I think that would be wise, because I don't think anybody on here, other than Rick, would kind of have a handle on what that was. So just even if that came by memo, so that we saw the parameters of what, my thoughts is obviously we have a lot to think about. We need to look at all our options and have everything on the table, so then when we go to make that decision about what, because we know we need more funding, what our options are to have a good discussion. So that's my reason for wanting it.
Based on that, if that encompasses what council's goal is for that, then it'd probably be best for us to just get you a memo on what the current parameters are for the sales tax that was provided a few years ago, and then we'll try to update those numbers, and we'll have a general update if we can on the numbers for the November 13th meeting, and in between now and then we'll have a memo just so you can digest what the parameters were for the sales tax.
I think that sounds like a really good starting point. Okay, anything else that council wanted to bring up? All right, anything that staff wanted to bring up tonight? Chief?
Hello, Mayor, Council. I just had a quick share. I'm a huge supporter of partnerships within our community. I think it helps everybody be successful. And we recently engaged in a partnership with Adapt Integrated Healthcare. And I'm not sure if council is familiar with Adapt Integrated Healthcare, but they do have a cadre of recovery mentors to support people suffering from addictions built into our city. And we started to explore a partnership a few months ago that has blossomed and actually just recently took off. We still have some bits and pieces to finalize through an MOU, but the Reader's Digest version is that every time the police department is dispatched to an overdose call, we will now share that information with ADAPT. Once we secure the scene, somebody from ADAPT will meet with one of our officers and there'll be a warm handoff. So the professionals with lived experience that help people recovery from substance use disorders can step in and we can step out, which is most appropriate. We've already seen some small successes in just a short few days, few weeks that we've kind of started to implement this program. So I'm super excited about this. This will also include some extended hours throughout the day to include on-call response. We believe that we need to be a part of the solution, and if we have a team of people out there helping people, encouraging people into recovery, which is what we do as well, we need to partner with that group, and that's what we've done, and we're going to blossom this partnership, and I think it will help more people be promoted towards some kind of a recovery or treatment or service through referral. And I just wanted to share that with the council. And as it expands and as we kind of go officially live, we'll work together to share our new partnership with the media. And this is also Overdose Awareness Month, and it's, I think, fitting. It's horrible to see so many people die from addiction, but it's also positive that we're actually trying to do something, especially in this particular month. So I wanted to share that with the council.
Thank you. All right. I think we came to the end. Valerie?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded by Vanessa. All in favor of adjourning tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. See you in 2 weeks.